Hey guys, welcome back to a Spooky Time podcast, or welcome if you haven't been here before. My name is Nicole. I'm the host and creator. So I actually have some weather that is matching a little bit too closely today. It's been dark and stormy outside. My cat's actually named Stormy, so she might come running in here for that one. But so the first one back that I did was True Crime with the Scara Cannibal. And then I moved on to like a historical, nostalgic top vibe with the last one, which was Old Caraway Hospital. So today I figured that we would do a spooky, scary one, haunted, possessed, whatever you want to call it. But we're going to be doing Annabelle. And so there's a lot of conflicting material that I have found. So like I'm just going to like give both versions like the best way I can, or like I guess you would say like the two most popular versions, because it's hard to say like which one's, it's not 100% fact. Like nobody can say it is, but we're going to try to do this one like the best that we can. Also, if you have not listened to the last two podcasts that I put out, please make your way after this one and listen to those. The first one was Scara Cannibal, Isaacin Drabad, and then the Old Caraway Hospital was the very last one that I did. And I'm a little biased, but they're both pretty good in my opinion. They probably could have been better, but I mean, I'm a one man show. We got this. Let's ride. So, demonologist and sensitive duo Ed and Lorraine Warren covered this case closely. So close that they eventually had the doll inside their museum. They have both since passed away, so like I can't say too much on them. But comedian Matt Rife, who actually had a mention in the last episode that I did, that I literally had put out yesterday at the time I wrote these notes, of the Old Caraway Hospital, he bought the Warrens' estate, which is kind of wild that like two podcast episodes back to back that he got a mention. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I don't know if that's good, but he made back to back mentions. So Annabelle is locked inside of a plexiglass case, actually. And she is known to be a very possessed. She is a 3 foot tall Raggedy Ann doll. There are several other haunted dogs, that are kind of dolls, not dogs, dolls that they're running around there. Robert the doll and Peggy the doll. You add Annabelle in there, that's the Three Musketeers, but um I don't want to get into anything dealing with Peggy the doll just because like it's said to have like immense repercussions if you like even just say their names, but like definitely like if you go into like detail. And I just don't want to risk it for the biscuit in case any of that actually is true and it's not just like a superstition. I don't want to FAFO. I'm not with it. So, like I said, Annabelle is a 3 foot tall Raggedy Ann doll. You know, there's nothing sinister about her. Like if you just look at her, you know, Furbies and Teletubbies were way more scary. I actually had, I want to say it was a Furby or I want to say it was a Furby, but they were like little robots. So they would start like singing and dancing and stuff. And like they would do that while we were asleep at night in the middle of the room. You know, I would literally be woken up to that thing going off at nights. Like I'm talking about, I was freaked out. So I would be way more scared of a Furby than Annabelle just looking at it, like not knowing anything, but like just looking. Furby, way worse. Nightmare fuel for real. Okay, back on track. Annabelle started as a gift to a 28-year-old nurse named Donna in Hartford, Connecticut in 1971. So, I'm 26. So, it's a little weird that a 28-year-old nurse would be gifted a Raggedy Ann doll for Christmas. But like, I guess go off. That's what she wanted. Or I don't know. It's the 70s. It was the 70s. But like I said, the doll was a Christmas gift from her mother, and within a few days of being home with the doll, Donna and her roommate, Angie, started to notice some weird happenings in the general area of like wherever the doll was. Just being tired, because they were both nurses. I'm sure they were working some long shifts. They just assumed that it was their imagination being vivid. They were tired, normal stuff. Like a normal assumption that any regular person would make. Oh, it's just my imagination. I'm tired. Let me go get some sleep. Y- normal. Before long, they started playing some dark games with the doll. They intentionally started moving it around, like in attempts to scare the other more before they went to work. Like who could scare more who before, we start working. Yeah. I mean, yeah, if you're bored, sounds right. But soon, of course, the games got old and they got bored. So they stopped doing it. However, Annabelle was not done with them. They would both deny moving the doll, but it would not be where they had left it. They also said that they would see its arms moving on their own. I'd burn it. So the nurse, Donna, obviously growing more scared and concerned, flew out to see a renowned medium with the doll, believing that the doll was a demonic force. The medium that she had met with, who I could not find the name of, I actually had recorded this and was like, well, actually, let me go see if I could find the name. I could not. Uh, the medium that she met with proclaimed that the doll was possessed by the spirit of a little girl named Annabelle. To confirm to confirm what the medium had been saying, they held a ritual that closely resembled a seance. So we're just going to call it a seance. They checked and verified the medium's findings that the spirit was from a 5-year-old girl that had been struck and killed by a car right outside the nurse's apartment building. So I actually heard two main different, like they're both pretty close, but like I heard two different stories, or like I read two different stories. So the alternate story was that of a deceased 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins. According to the medium, the child's body had been found years earlier on the property before the complex was built, and then the nurse was told that the spirit was nothing violent in nature. Uh, what is that? Oh, we're dying. That's what it is. Okay. So the nurse was told that there was nothing violent in nature. Accepting what the medium had told her to be fact, she took the doll back home and started to treat it like an actual living child. She brought it clothes, toys, jewelry, and candy. The nurse and Annabelle would come home, or no, would come home, would come to be inseparable. However, it wouldn't last long. The nurse and her roommate soon began experiencing some weird things. The doll had already been moving, so it had escalated further. Yeah, nope. Mm-mm. Knocking in the walls, sounding like something was moving from inside of the walls, different colors of flashing lights from the ceiling in their bedroom. Their beds would shake and rattle with force at midnight. The room's temperature would drop with no explanation, and then, every so often, the doll would emit a deep, low growl. Yeah, you got me fucked up. I would move out and I would fucking burn that thing down with the fucking apartment. No, absolutely not. Like I said, I do not FO. Not happening. Not happening. Not me. One of the nurse's boyfriends, now fed up with the poltergeist energy, demanded that they burn the doll. See? I'm not the only one. Annabelle, however, was not having it. Yeah, she said not. One afternoon, before they had planned to burn the doll, uh, the boyfriend woke up in a panic from a nap, clutching his neck. He said that he had a dream of Annabelle choking him. When the boyfriend moved his hand away from his neck, there were lines of marks, scratches, and deep red whelps. So like red marks all over him pretty much. From that point on, almost instantly, the poltergeist activity ramped up. Picture frames began flying off the walls, chairs were rolling across the floor on their own, the lights would flicker off and on by themselves, and the final straw was when the boyfriend was attacked. Absolutely terrified, yeah, as one would be, the women contacted the High Episcopal Church in Hartford, Connecticut, which is how they were connected to Ed and Lorraine Warren, actually. Upon their investigation, they concluded that it was, in fact, a demon inside of Annabelle, or that was using Annabelle as like a conduit, was preying on the sympathy of the nurses. They also said that the medium's seance is what unleashed the demon. As they continued to dote on the doll, the power of the demon intensified as it recognized it was allowed to inhabit and possess their home. The house had become infested with either an earthbound spirit that was negative or a demonic entity that used the doll as a doorway. After Annabelle had become responsible for a death, the Warrens had then decided that it was best for her to be contained, as whatever was using the doll was too strong to be exorcised. That's fucking wild. Okay. Annabelle is permanently located in Salem, Massachusetts, on Essex Street at the New England Paranormal Research Center. Their entire collection was moved from the Occult Museum in Connecticut after it was purchased. She is locked in a thick box behind plexiglass with words and sigils engraved, all over the box. The center has all sorts of objects that are diabolical and enchanted and dangerous. Some items that the Warrens had, they claim to prove that the paranormal was real. So, somewhat recently, in May of 2025, someone made a not so great decision to let Annabelle go on tour. The Warren Occult Museum leader, Tony Spera, allowed for Annabelle to see parts of the nation. Where is Tony? And I need to have some words with him because why would you do that? Why would you do that? So, this was also just a few months before The Conjuring Last Rites released in September of 2025. It was what, 4 months? Yeah. So while on the Devils on the Run tour, as they called it, which accurate, Annabelle visited the very haunted West Virginia state penitentiary and made some ghostly acquaintances, as one would. So then she made her big debut in our very own, very haunted NOLA, or New Orleans, Louisiana, where she seemed to have unleashed her true power. As some may have heard, the plantation where Annabelle was hosted saw complete devastation just after she was there. There was a 10 inmate prison breakout that left the city at unease from Orleans Parish Prison, RIP. Finally, there was a fire random atop the home of a famed voodoo practitioner. Let me break into a little bit of that. So, the Nottoway Plantation House was ravaged by a blazing inferno, allegedly started by an electrical fire. Although it was a beautiful wedding and event venue, it had an obvious, darker past. It was a plantation, so, especially in much of the South at the time, there were slaves on the property. Uh, and I'm sure a lot of death. I'm sure. And then obviously the former home of Marie Laveau, 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 Marie Laveau, sounds about right, who was the voodoo practitioner, did not face a fire to the same extent, but as famously haunted places with dark pasts in New Orleans that, hello, we all know New Orleans is old. We all know they're haunted. Like, yeah, we got Bourbon Street, but like we know it. You can't say that you don't know. Would you consider it a coincidence that they both caught fire at the same time Annabelle was near? I mean, I don't think it was a coincidence, but you don't have to believe it. But if it's true, I definitely see why she's locked in a case. Annabelle is no longer on tour and is back at home at the center where she definitely belongs, in my opinion. So, I didn't put this in my notes because I figured pretty much everybody already knows this, but Annabelle is, we've got all the movies from the Warrens with all of their dramatizations, but after, getting all of the backstory to Annabelle and like knowing all that one would know, I can't really say that if it's, too dramatized because she sounds like a real trip and I definitely do not want to be acquainted. I do, however, want to go to the center and see her for myself because, hello, spooky time, I'm in. Like literally the name of my podcast. I'm ready to roll. Well, I was in New Orleans last year for my Suicide Boys concert. I actually stopped at the Museum of Death in New Orleans and I loved it. I have a shirt from it. It's probably one of my favorite shirts. So, you know, I want to go back to New Orleans and actually be able to go around. That was actually not too far off from Halloween. It was pretty close to Halloween, but like I want to go back and have more time to go and like do like a spooky ghost tour and like actually like spend time and like see like the um was it the it's not, I think it was the house or the building where there was like a former voodoo like high priestess and the like there was like an apartment above it or something and the boyfriend killed his girlfriend and like had her head in a pot on the stove or something. I wanted to cover that. Like I want to cover that one because it's NOLA It's spooky, it's true crime because like literally the name of the game, like I need to get on that. That might be the next one I do actually. I need to figure out what that's about. But um that's all of the notes that I have for today. Annabelle is wild. I don't want to be included. Kindly leave me out of that. But um I'll see you guys in a bit. And I love you. Thank you for all of the support on the podcast. I know my mans is going to hear this, so shout out to my mans because he is probably the only reason that I actually started picking up podcasting again. Uh, I love you all. Thank you for being here. Comment, send me an email. Like, if you want to hear something specific, send me in some suggestions. I am more than happy to have the help because I am indecisive and I never know what to do next. I literally had to put it in a little wheel and like have it spin the wheel and decide something for me. That's how we got Annabelle. All right. See you guys soon. Bye.